In this episode, we are going to learn the 30-second strategy. The name of the strategy is presenting a bold front to conceal unpreparedness or empty city ploy. Welcome to subscribe to the 36 Stratagems channel, comment or send us an email and you will get an ebook about 36 stratagems on sale. When the enemy is superior in numbers and your situation is such that you expect to be overrun at any moment, then drop all pretense of military preparedness, act calmly and taunt the enemy, so that the enemy will think you have a huge ambush hidden for them. It works best by acting calm and at ease when your enemy expects you to be tense. This is a psychological warfare tactic. When our forces are unable to confront the enemy and are trapped inside the city, intentionally opening the city gates can induce doubts in the enemy's mind, making them fear that there might be an ambush inside the city. This feigned confusion disturbs the enemy's judgment, leading them to voluntarily retreat and resolve the crisis. However, this method is a last resort, as if the enemy sees through the ruse, it could result in the complete annihilation of our entire army. The empty city stratagem is a particularly remarkable tactic that has been widely discussed and admired, especially in the novel romance of the Three Kingdoms. The story of Zhuge using the empty city stratagem to scare away the massive army led by Sima Yi is the most typical example. Zhuge stationed his troops in Yangping Pass and sent the majority of his forces to attack the enemy, leaving only a small number of weak and elderly soldiers behind in the city. Suddenly, news arrived that Sima Yi, the commander of the Wei army, was leading 150,000 troops to attack the city. Despite the danger, Zhuge remained unfazed. He ordered the city gates to be wide open and sent people to sweep and sprinkle water at the city entrance. Zhuge himself climbed up the city tower, calmly sat down, played the zither, and maintained a composed attitude. Zhuge had no prominent generals by his side, only a group of civilian officials. Half of the 5,000 troops under his command were away transporting supplies, leaving only around 2,000 soldiers in the city. When the news of Sima Yi's arrival reached everyone, they were all shocked and fearful. Zhuge, standing on the city tower, commanded them, "Hide all the flags, and do not move from your positions. Anyone who goes out without permission or causes a disturbance will be beheaded. Open all 4 city gates, with 20 soldiers at each gate disguised as ordinary people, sweeping the streets and sprinkling water. When the Wei army arrives, no one should act on their own. I have a stratagem." Zhuge himself wore a crane robe, a tall official hat, took 2 young boys with him, and brought a zither to the city wall. He sat down, burning incense, and slowly began to play the zither. When Sima Yi's vanguard troops arrived at the city, they saw this formidable show and did not dare to enter the city easily. They quickly returned to report to Sima Yi. After hearing the report, Sima Yi smiled and said, "How could this be possible?" He then ordered the entire army to halt and personally rode forward to take a look. Not far from the city, he indeed saw Zhuge sitting on the city tower, with a smile on his face, playing the zither. There was a young boy holding a sword on his left side, and another young boy holding a dust brush on his right side. Inside and outside the city gates, there were more than 20 people disguised as commoners, diligently sweeping the streets with their heads down, as if no one else was around. After seeing this, Sima Yi became suspicious and had doubts, fearing that there might be an ambush inside the city. Therefore, he did not dare to rashly enter the city and ordered his troops to retreat. His son asked, "Could it be that Zhuge really has no soldiers in the city, so he purposely created the scene?" "Father, why are we retreating?" Sima Yi replied, "Zhuge is always cautious and never takes risks. Now that the city gates are wide open, there must be an ambush inside. If our army enters, we will fall into their trap. Let's quickly retreat. As a result, all the troops withdrew. The key to using this tactic is to have a clear understanding of the psychological state and characteristics of the enemy's generals. Zhuge used the empty city stratagem to resolve the crisis because he had a thorough understanding of Sima Yi's cautious and suspicious nature, allowing him to take such a risky stratagem. By intentionally revealing our weak military strength and displaying this vulnerability to the enemy, creating uncertainty and doubts about our actual capabilities. In a situation where the balance of power is greatly tilted in favor of the enemy, using deception in emptiness as a psychological tactic allows us to halt or thwart the enemy's offensive, gaining time to search for opportunities. The empty city stratagem is not specifically designed to make opponents unaware of their own strength. Rather, it is a tactic used to deceive and confuse the enemy by creating an appearance of vulnerability. It does not aim to cover up the defender's true capabilities but rather to manipulate the enemy's perception and decision-making process. During the Gulf War, which began on January 17, 1991, the multinational forces led by the United States conducted airstrikes against Iraq for 38 days. The Iraqi government organized extensive civil defense mobilization with the aim of protecting their war potential. Throughout the war, the Iraqi army and civilians employed various measures such as deception and the creation of obstacles to confuse the enemy and achieve comprehensive protection. In preparation for the war, Iraq managed to obtain satellite images of important domestic targets taken by France through purchase. Based on this information, they carried out targeted camouflage and terrain modifications for vital locations like Baghdad. Additionally, Iraq procured plastic weapon models from different countries. During the conflict, the Iraqi army utilized these models, along with a large number of fake planes, missiles, and tanks made of wood and plastic, to create false targets. The intention was to mislead and confuse the multinational forces. Furthermore, the Iraqi army employed tactics like burning waste rubber tires around airports and other strategic sites, blowing sand, and spraying water to obscure the targets and disrupt the detection and guidance systems of air raid weapons used by the multinational forces. These measures played a role in safeguarding the safety of real targets. Overall, these tactics employed by Iraqi forces during the Gulf War were aimed at deceiving and confusing the enemy rather than covering up their true strength. In the next episode, we will start the 33rd strategy. If you want to listen, please subscribe to this channel and you won't get lost.